Jesus came among us to gather every person on earth to the banquet of heaven. In the Gospels, there's a miracle which is reported 7 different times: the multiplication of the loaves and fishes. It's in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Could be there were 2 different miracles, because some of the Gospels have it twice. But nevertheless, there were many, many people, thousands of people. There are variations on how many people. But one thing that is consistent in all the stories is they had no food to feed all the people. But then a little boy brings a few fish, a few loaves of bread. And again, there's variation on how many fish, how many bread. But then Jesus says to his friends, we're going to feed all these people. And they say, how? How are we going to do it? He took, he blessed, he broke, he gave. In each and every one of these reports of the miracle, those words are exactly the same. He took, he blessed, he broke, he gave. And then the apostles begin to distribute the fish and the bread, and there was more than enough. There were leftovers. Everyone was filled up. Everyone had enough. So that miracle is here in Mark's Gospel, right before the Gospel reading of today, when the Pharisees come and argue with Jesus and they want a sign from heaven. They just witnessed the multiplication of the loaves and fishes. They saw how 4,000 people had fish and bread, enough for everyone. But now they wanted something more. They wanted a sign from heaven. Well, in the Old Testament, there were signs from heaven. For example, Elijah, when he went face to face with the false prophets who were in the court of King Ahab, 2 altars were set up. The false prophets set up their altar, and they invoked their gods. And they asked for fire to come down from heaven and consume the victim on the altar. Elijah put up his altar. He dug a trench around it. He filled it with water. He doused the altar with water. And then he invoked God to send fire down upon that victim on the altar. And fire came down and not only consumed the animal sacrifice, but the altar itself. So that was quite an experience for people to see that fire coming down from heaven. So the Pharisees are saying, give us a sign from heaven. Unfortunately, this miracle, feeding the thousands when there were only a few loaves, a few fish, that didn't faze them. But why this miracle is repeated 7 times in the Gospel? It's getting us ready for the Last Supper. There at the Last Supper, Jesus will take the bread, he will bless, break, he will take it, he will bless, he will give, and then he will say, this is my body. The same very words in the miracle of the multiplication of loaves and fishes. So each and every Mass, we have a miracle. We have a miracle from heaven. Heaven touches earth. We are at the banquet of life. And our readings today, especially the first reading from St. James, says, for the dispersed church all around the world, we want to be at that table of life. We want to be with Jesus because the Lord is here. He died on the cross, he rose again, but he promised, I will be with you always until the end of the ages. So the Lord keeps his promise each and every day, each and every Mass. I will be with you until the end of the ages. And when we know that, as St. James is telling the believers of his time, we can endure suffering, trials, and tribulations. And we know that we carry a cross, but the Lord is there with us to help us carry that cross. So let's pray for a deeper insight with eyes of faith to see the miracle every Mass, where Jesus takes the bread, he blesses, he breaks, and he gives. He says, "This is my body, which will be given up for you."